Hey, y'all. Happy Sunday to everybody. I'd like to wish everybody out there a very Merry Christmas this coming week. It's getting to be about crunch time. I hope everybody's got their projects at least done enough to keep everybody on schedule. It's really been a heck of a week. It's kind of like almost like our Super Bowl. Those of us who make stuff for folks, and those of us who try to get everything going and keep everybody happy. Um, let's go ahead and take a look and see who's out there in the chat first off. We see Awesome Wood Things, Matt Haas over there. Then there's Mr. A.L. Peleg. I do hope I'm pronouncing your last name right. David Mitchell, Ronald Ledger from Bedford. Holy cow. John DeRoos, Steve Nealon from Harneo Media, the webmaster to the stars. Let's see, David Kraus, Kevin Els, Bob Heltebridal. Wow, I've never heard of Chile, Virginia. I've heard of a few towns in Virginia, but not Chile. Oh, boy. Kurt Brugel is out there. Jason Pulliam, Donnie Reese, Warren Van New. Boy, a lot of new names to me. Michael McCrite, Matt D., Jill Knight, Dave Gatton, the man himself. He's going to be the subject of some discussion today. And then Stephen Rice. Welcome all. Thank you for joining. Oh boy, here we go. Ron Owensby, Percy Kuka, Wendell Skeet from Barbados. Wow, we got them checking in from all over the place. Mervyn Schumacher, glad to see you out there, Mervyn. Hope everything's going well. For those of you who have been asking, and thank you for asking, okay, thank you very much, AL. I tend to butcher names, and I don't like to do that. For those who have been asking, and thank you for asking, my wife Linda is recovering nicely from knee replacement surgery. She's doing just fine. In fact, this Tuesday will be 4 weeks since her surgery. She's up and around, doing everything just as well as she can, keeping up with her physical therapy, and I am to the point to where I'm having to tell her to sit down and quit trying to push it. She wants to try to get back to normal as quick as possible, and she tends to push it every once in a while, but she's doing just great. She is about ready to ditch the walker and move up to a cane, and everything is going very well. So thank you to everybody who's asking, and everything is doing just fine. So before I get into any questions, well, this actually does kind of dovetail into a question, and I mentioned Dave Gatton quite a bit. You still have 2 days to get in on Dave Gallen. Dave Gallen? Holy cow. Sorry for the magical mystery name change there, Dave. You still have about 2 days to get in on Dave Gatton's Christmas CNC Challenge. Now, he's done this for the past 3 or 4 years now. A lot of these challenges and competitions for makers in the maker community, they tend to, let's be diplomatic, they tend to frown on CNC people. So Dave took it upon himself to step up to the plate and do an all CNC challenge. So this is for CNCers only. At least, well, most of it needs to be made on the CNC, whether that be a CNC router, a CNC plasma cutter. I believe he even said 3D printer or laser, so long as it's CNC. So just need to get over to his website and check the rules, how to enter. He's got some great sponsors, some great prizes. He's footing most of the bill himself. He is the man in the CNC community, and if you're not subscribed to his channel, well, number one, shame on you. You should be. Just click his name over there. Put your cursor right next to his name over there in the chat. You see those 3 little dots. Click on those dots, and then where it says go to channel, right click that and open it in a new tab. then when you're finished wasting part of your Sunday with me, head over to his channel and subscribe. He's got a lot of good content over there. So, let me just say that that kind of dovetails into another, the first question. And it's a question that I've gotten probably 4 times this week. And that is about choosing a CNC router. And I'm going to direct you over here to Dave Gatton's webpage right here, davegatton.com. There is a link in the description to this. And when you scroll down right here, new to CNC, here are some things you should consider when purchasing your first CNC router. Read this entire page right here, okay? And as well, here is the link to get to the Christmas challenge. But I've been asked probably at least 4 times this week, Mark, I'm new to CNC. What CNC should I start looking at, and what CNC should I get into? I can't answer that question. I don't know what you want to do with a CNC. I don't know which direction you want to go. I don't know what you want to specialize in. These are the things that you should look for. These are the things that you should consider. This is a very well thought out article. It's just 3 simple questions that you need to answer honestly, and let that be your guide. Personally, I don't think you can go wrong with a Gatton CNC, but if that's not your focus, if you're going to be specializing in metals or something like that, and you need to step up to a mill, then that's the way to go for you. But you have to answer that question yourself by taking an honest look at what you hope to achieve and which direction you want to take your CNC adventures. So I hope that's a good, excuse me, boy, suddenly got a hiccup. I hope that's a good answer to that question. You are the only one who can really answer what CNC you need to look at. Because, I mean, the minute you post in a Facebook CNC group or you ask around, you're going to get a million answers because everybody loves the CNC they have. And everybody's right and everybody's wrong. So do a lot of honest assessment of what you want to do. Check out that article over on Dave Gatton's website. And that's the way you need to go. And from there, once you head in a certain direction, focus on that machine and let that be your guide. So, okay, let's get over here and see if there are a few questions that we have off to the side here. Fred Weinberg wants to know, how do I set the depth when carving with a V-bit? Well, first I'm going to ask, do you mean you want to limit the depth of cut for a V-bit, or you want to try to tell it how deep to cut? I have 2 videos. I'll go ahead and put links to them in the description when this goes live. One is how V-carving works, and that'll kind of help you on that score. And then the other is how to carve to a flat depth. So if you're wanting to carve to a specific depth and go no deeper, you'll want to carve to a flat depth. If you're just looking for how do I set how far the V-bit goes, you don't. So I'll link those 2 videos in the description, how V-carving works and how the depth of cut is decided, and how to V-carve to a flat depth. So it could go in either direction. So let's see. Jim Hester says, "Hey Mark, it's half past crunch time. I've been so buried alive I haven't gotten to listen to your last two episodes live." Yeah, Jim, welcome. Welcome to my world. It's been the same with me. My YouTube time has been extremely limited. I haven't seen a Dave Gatton coffee session. I haven't been able to see the Dave Gatton show. I know he had Brian on this week talking about using your CNC to create t-shirts, and I did get a chance to go look at some of that, but I haven't watched the entire episode. And this is one of those things that I'm talking about, why you should be subscribed to Dave's channel. He had a guest on, and I don't know his last name. I don't remember his last name. His first name was Brian. I'll link that episode in the description too. He made several different mounts for various fabric markers, pens, pencils, what have you. And he does drawings with his CNC and prints t-shirts with his CNC. Now, as he said, this is not the kind of thing, you're not going to become a commercial t-shirt printer with your CNC, but you can print one-offs to make gifts or something like that, or just something cool to wear for yourself. But it's not anything I would have ever thought of with a CNC router. Is printing t-shirts. So let's see. Bob Helta Bridle. I've had the privilege of visiting the world headquarters of Gatton CNC. Yes, I did too, Bob, in late March, early April of 2017. Dave was nice enough to invite me to stay at his place for the woodworking show. It was one heck of an adventure. Got to see the inner workings behind the scenes and check out the big green beast that creates every Gatton CNC channel. So let's see. Ron Owens B. Not everybody loves the CNC they have. True. True. There have been a few people who have, one in particular who will remain nameless. I remember he kind of shoved it off of the table and put it into a wheelbarrow and took it outside, then later traded it for a scroll saw. Let's see. Matt D. Where is the best place to purchase quality, affordable bits? Boy, that is a wide open question. It just depends on what you're doing and depends on your experience level. Basically, I started out with cheap imported bits from eBay and a couple of an upcut and a downcut spiral end mill that I got at my neighborhood Lowe's. And those two Lowe's spiral end mills, well, one of them I'm still using. The upcut I'm still using because I don't use it much. The downcut lasted me about 3 years. It was a Bosch. Both of them are Bosch, upcut and downcut spiral. Like I said, I picked them up in my local Lowe's. I'll find some links and put links in the description when this goes live. So I went to eBay. There is a company called Carbide Plus. They go by the eBay seller name as Drillman1. I'll put a link to his eBay store in the description of this when it goes live. He has some inexpensive bits. They're great for learning, and to be honest, I'm still using them. When you pay $20 for a 5-pack of bits and they work, I see no reason to buy more expensive stuff. So, okay, let's see. Rob Dryman wants to know, question, when carving 3D models in wood, I was trying to run 2 roughing tool passes, one with a 1-inch surfacing bit, second with a 1/4-inch end mill. Yeah, I guess you can do that, but that takes a lot of time. Okay, I see is that possible? Rob wants to know. Yeah, it is possible, but unless you're cutting something big where you need to clear a lot of material, I don't really know that it would be beneficial. I mean, if you've got something that's 24-inch diameter, for example, then it might be advantageous to clear a bunch of it away. But personally, I would tend to just go with the 1/4 inch end mill unless it's really huge. So let's see. I Percy Kuka. I own an 8x4 CNC with a 30 kilowatt Heitco spindle, stepper motors on all 3 axes using the Edding controls. Can I cut stainless steel? I wouldn't. A stainless steel, you're looking at something like a mill, because I don't. I'm not a metal guy. Um, so cutting stainless is different from cutting like cold rolled steel or mild steel. Um, and I'm not really up on the particulars of trying to cut stainless. I know you need slow RPMs, and you will need coolant more than likely. You would be looking at a mill for that. This is just me. I probably wouldn't even attempt to cut stainless with my CNC. So let's see. Rockin' Woodworks, Eloy in the house, my partner in crime over on the Trampled Underfoot podcast. I'll put a link to the Trampled Underfoot podcast down in the description too. Eloy and I, he lives in Miami, I live in Oregon. We get together every Tuesday and record a live stream and put it out as a podcast. We have a lot of fun talking about life, the universe, everything. So if you're in the mood for some mindless entertainment, we're the mindless ones for you. I'll put a link to us down in the description box below. Okay, Dave, thank you very much. Brian Walkenfuss. His YouTube channel is Builds with Brian. That's the gentleman that prints t-shirts with his CNC and does line drawings and some very, very cool artwork with his CNC and just Sharpie pens and t-shirt markers. It's great. So let's see. Let's see, Robert Hodge. I guess I am a true CNCer now. I hit my Shark HD4 aluminum table. Yeah, I know, spoil board. Now you know why they call them spoil boards. Welcome to the club. How many clamps have you run over, though? So let's see. Bob Heltebridle. How do you store your bits? Believe it or not, in their original boxes. Whether I get it shipped to me or I go downtown and buy it, I store them in their original boxes. I've got a cabinet with, a little parts cabinet with the larger drawers in them, and I just lay them down, put them in those drawers. And when I'm going to do a project, I pull all the bits I'm going to use. I line them up on the table next to my CNC, and then I just swap them out from there. I just store them in their original boxes. Some of them have the little desiccant tablets in them, and in this climate, I need them. So I just keep them in their own, the original boxes they got shipped in. So let's see. Frankie CNC and Woodworking, welcome aboard, says don't store bits near pool chemicals. It will rust them in days. Oh, yes, big time. And that's why I keep them in their original boxes. I have a few that those boxes are in Ziploc bags. But it gets so foggy and wet around here, wood will actually start to mold and mildew, and metal rusts like crazy. So I have to do that. Let's see. Matt D wants to know the difference between an upcut and a downcut. Well, the easy answer is an upcut bit. As the bit spins, it ejects the chips up and out of the slot it is just cut. So it slices the fibers in an upward direction, and that can cause the surface fibers to lift up and chip out. A downcut bit, as it spins, the cutting edge is on the bottom of the spiral, and it cuts in a downward slicing pattern and ejects the chips downwards. So there's some things you got to watch out for using those. But generally speaking, I use an upcut bit when the top surface of the material is doesn't really matter, when it's not super critical that I get a beautiful finish on the top. And I'll use a downcut bit when it is critical that the top surface uh, have no chip out on it. So also, never, never, never drill straight down with a downcut bit. Always use an upcut bit for drilling holes. So, okay, let's see. Robert Hodge, bits question. How do you find the bit specifics if you don't have the manufacturer info? Um, Good question, Robert. If you don't have the manufacturer info, I mean, I guess you couldn't compare it to other bits that you may have in your tool database and your CAD/CAM program. I mean, if it's an eighth inch upcut bit, it's an eighth inch upcut bit. Um, Solid carbide. I mean, they should be very similar. The helix is going to be about the same. The cutting edge is going to be about on the same side. So, for instance, if I buy a white side bit where to replace one of these Bosch bits that I've been using, I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to leave it the same. A 90-degree V bit is probably going to be the same, whether it be one brand or another. Um, but if it's something special, um, I, I try to contact a manufacturer of something similar. Like if you're using a profile bit, like an OG bit or something like that, somebody out there, whether it be Magnate or Whiteside or Amana, somebody has an OG bit that's similar that you can take some information from. I just take it easy as far as depth per pass, cutting depth per pass, and feed rate is concerned, and then just kind of adjust as I get more experience with the bit. So, let's see. Robert Hodge. I have run over 2 clamps so far, so aggravating when I don't think ahead. Yeah, well, that happens. Everybody does it. I mean, I think Dave would tell you that only running over 2, you're doing pretty ding dong good. That's why he makes wooden clamps and wooden hold downs. They're easier on bits. So, let's see. Bob Heltebridle. We have horses, can't afford a pool. No, Bob, you don't have horses. You have Clydesdales. That's a whole different league. You know, any animal bigger than you, yeah, I don't know how you afford a house. So, let's see. I all said I saw there are also bits that are partly upcut and partly downcut. Yes, sir. Those are called compression bits, and they are upcut on the bottom of the shank. I don't have any bits here to demonstrate with. They are upcut on the bottom of the shank and downcut at the top. So you have to plunge the bit down past that upcut portion before it starts moving, and it'll, you know, give you a nice clean edge where you have a nice bottom surface and a nice top surface. So let's see. Let's see. Mervyn Schumacher, as long as the V bit is the same diameter. Yes. I mean, you know, get out your calipers or your micrometer, whatever, whichever you prefer to use for measure, and just measure the bit diameter, measure the angle, make sure everything is cool. Let's see. Glenn Bright, home built 4x4, Mach 3, Gecko 540. Having trouble with erratic stops in the middle of the code stream. Got any suggestions? Already tracked all wires, ran one axis at a time, checked power supply, added. Erratic stops in the middle of the code stream. I mean, is that, are you getting false limit switch triggers, or is it just suddenly it stops? Um, you know, these are all different problems that could be. If you're getting false limit switch triggers, the first thing I would ask is, are your cables shielded, and is one end of the shielding on that cable grounded? If that's so, maybe check your switch debounce in Mach 3. So let's see. Glenn Bright says a filter capacitor. Okay, I don't know. Okay, let's see. Kurt Brugel, related to bits, what is your view, if any, on Freud, Whiteside, and Amana? They're all great. I have some of each. I have some of each. When you get to a certain point, for me anyway, as a home hobbyist in woodworking, um, when you get to a certain point, the names all become kind of similar. I'm more of a price shopper than I am a brand shopper. I mean, there are some, don't get me wrong, there are some excellent bits out there made by Amana and some excellent stuff made by Onsrud. You can really spend a lot of money on bits. But if I'm going to go through 3 bits a year, I'm going to spend as little money as I can. So I don't mind using something by Yoniko or Kyocera. And in fact, they're pretty good bits. Some folks have a lot of brand loyalty. There are some bits with replaceable inserts, like Amana V bits with replaceable inserts that are absolutely killer bits, and they come with a killer price tag. Anything over $100 to me is a luxury, because I'm a home hobbyist. I don't make my living with my CNC. So that's just my attitude. But as far as Freud versus Whiteside versus Amana versus Bosch, I mean, I've used some skill bits in my CNC. And for what I wanted them to do, they've all done the job just perfectly. So let's see. What material, Stephen Osborne, what material would yield the best results for sign making? MDF, plywood, hardwood such as maple, pros and cons of each. Depends on what you're wanting to do, and I know that's not the answer you wanted to hear. If you're looking for indoor signs, all of the above. I mean, if it's going to be painted, if the whole thing is going to be painted, there is no sense in using a pretty piece of an exotic or a hardwood. If it's going to be finished, use whatever wood you like. If it's an exterior sign, start looking into things like high density urethane, HDU, or sign foam, or even extruded PVC. There are all kinds of materials. Some folks like acrylic for outdoor signs. It just depends on what you're going to do. But if it's an interior sign that's never going to see any weather, MDF or plywood works just fine. I've used them all. So let's see. Les Douglas, use power backup on your computer. Yes, my computer that runs my CNC does have a battery backup. Let's see. Glenn Bright, looks like somebody's trying to help him out over there. He says it just stops, no limit switch. Yeah, let's see. We're back on Glenn Bright talking about erratic stops in the middle of the code stream. Another question I would ask you, Glenn, are you trying to run the G code off of a flash drive, or did you transfer the G code file onto the controller computer? That makes a difference. USB ports can go to sleep. They can time out. There may be a problem with the thumb drive itself. I may not be able to keep up with the transfer rate. Number one, I never try to run a file off of the flash drive. Now, having said that, I'm using Mach 3. Some CNCs are proprietary. You have to run it off a flash drive. If that's what your Axiom or digital woodcarver or your Laguna has you do, then do it the way they say. I'm talking about using a PC with Mach 3. I always transfer the file off of the computer or off of the flash drive onto the computer and run it from there. Let's see. Johnny Shoemake, can you direct me to some help? My Laguna CNC handheld controller, it stopped working. Laguna says just start replacing expensive parts. Are the handhelds on Amazon or eBay equivalent? I have no idea. I've never been in the same room with the Laguna CNC. I seriously doubt it. Most of the handheld pendants are made for use with Mach 3, Mach 4, or another controller software for use with a PC, unless it says specifically it's for use with a Laguna CNC. I would stay away from it. Simple fact is, you may end up having to replace expensive parts through Laguna. I wish I could help you better than that, but that's about it. They know your machine. They built your machine. I've never been in the same building with a Laguna. You can look, but make sure it is specifically made for a Laguna, your model of Laguna CNC. So let's see. Todd HCNC says being sharp is more important when it comes to bits. Absolutely. Bits wear out, and that's all there is to it. Now, you can dress up certain bits with a diamond file, like a 90-degree V-bit with the carbide cutter on it. You can dress those up a little bit. Straight bits you can dress up. Anything else you can send in to have sharpened. And if you ask the sharpener to measure the bit afterwards, just mark that bit when you get it back, and they can measure it for you and give you the actual diameter it's cutting. Then just create a new tool in your tool database with that diameter and drive on. But you don't have to get a bit resharpened more than once or twice before it doesn't really do you any good to get it sharpened. It's just as cheap to replace it. So, but yes, definitely sharp bits are the way to go, for sure. Yes. T-Pete61, I had the same problem years ago with a printer cable and dumped it. Went with Warp 9 smooth stepper with Ethernet. Problem gone. It's technical, but I believe the printer port buffer overloads. I have heard that. Another big thing is to make absolutely sure that you're not running anything else in the background. That computer needs to focus on running Mach 3. I had a person having a similar problem, but he just says it just stopped responding. And it turns out he would get about 10 minutes into cutting a file and start playing solitaire on that computer. Well, yeah, you have to let Mach 3 be that computer's main focus. Transfer the file off of the flash drive onto the computer, run it from the computer. I pull the flash drive out and put it in my pocket so I don't load the wrong file. Run it off of the computer and let that computer focus solely 100% on running Mach 3. I have an old desktop out there. I'm still running through a printer cable, through a parallel cable rather, and I just don't have problems. That's why I haven't upgraded to a motion controller or anything else. The computer runs Windows XP, for crying out loud. It just continues to work, so I'm not going to replace it until I have to. But that's all it runs. It cannot go online. There is no antivirus software on it. There's nothing to update. It just runs Mach 3, and that's all. So let's see. Percy Kuka. 3 projects I'm working on developing as cutting boards, wall clocks, and epoxy resin coffee tables. Is rubber wood good enough for R&D prototypes? I'm going to have to claim ignorance. I've never heard of rubber wood. If you're talking about the wood from an actual rubber tree, I have never even seen it. I don't know what rubber wood is. Personally, for prototypes and R&D, I go for the cheapest thing I can get. I made it no secret when I first started learning CNC. I got on my local Craigslist and went into the free section and just started looking for wood that people were going to take to a landfill. And I picked up, oh boy, I picked up fence boards. I picked up old particle board furniture that people were throwing out and just what scrap wood. I can't tell you how many fence boards and 2x12s and pieces of 2x4 I've carved up just learning the machine, learning a technique. I still do it. If I'm going to try something out for the first time, I'll do it on an old piece of fence board. So for prototyping, the cheapest you can get is the best, and free is always a great price. So, okay. Jim Hester, last week you were speaking the gospel about MDF dust. When I was young, I was bulletproof. I didn't need no stinking respirator. Now I'm permanently disabled with COPD and emphysema. The doctor said fine particulates were likely the culprit. I hope folks take your advice seriously before it's too late. Yeah, um, I've made that pretty plain myself, Jim. If I'd have known I was going to live this long, I'd have taken better care of myself. I did a lot of stupid things when I was younger, too, and had more than my fair share of derisive names for people who wore respirators and dust masks and things like that out in the shop floor. And it's just foolish. Take care of your lungs. They're the only set you got. Take care of your eyes. They're the only set you got. Take care of your hearing. I worked around aircraft in the Army and firing rifles and stuff in the Army. Field artillery, the first tour of duty. And you got to take care of all that stuff. You've got nobody to impress but yourself. And believe me, if you can make it to 60 years old and still have all 10 fingers, all 10 toes, can see and hear and breathe, then you're ahead of the game. MDF dust, I think some people thought that I was going a little bit overboard when I said it's a tool of the devil. I meant that as a joke. It is invasive stuff. But if you wear a good particle mask, a good respirator with filters made for particles, fine particles, you should be good. And that's another thing. Match the respirator to the job you're going to be doing. If you're going to be painting, get filter cartridges that are made for paint and paint fumes. If you're going to be sanding, get filter cartridges that are made for dust and fine particles. I mean, it's okay to have more than one respirator and keep them locked up in separate places for separate uses. I mean, I do. Same with safety glasses. I've got glasses and safety glasses all over the place. And that's because I can never be reminded to take them with me when I need to. So take care of yourself. All the macho BS aside, you've got nobody to impress but yourself. So, well, we've been on, holy cow, for 40 minutes, so I think I'm going to go ahead and go ahead and bring this to an end now. You've got, again, about 2 more days to participate in the Gatton CNC Christmas Challenge. I put a link in the description below already to the Gatton CNC Christmas Challenge page on Dave's website. And go check it out. Check out the rules and get your entry in Christmas Eve, by Christmas Eve. Also, take a look at Dave's homepage for that article on things to look for when you're shopping for a CNC, things to consider when you're shopping for your first CNC. The other things is I'm going to be I'll be posting the how V carving works video and the carving to a flat depth video and a link to Drillman Carbide Plus eBay page down in the description for let you do some shopping for bits. And I'll put a couple links in the description to some bits I have. And as a matter of fact, I'll put a link to the CNC bits for beginners video down in the description box. As soon as this video goes live, give me about 10 minutes after we end this. So, Jim Johnson, I just upgraded to VCarve 10. Is there a need to download the clip art, or is what I got with the previous version still the same? It's still the same, but as you look at the clip art library, look for that little arrow down in the bottom corner. If you click on that little arrow, it will download that new clip art to your computer. So all of your old clip art is still there and available, but any new clip art you'll have to download right there from within the clip art library. So, all right, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and end this. Y'all have a very Merry Christmas. I'll be doing another live stream on next Sunday, which will be the after Christmas pre-New Year's. And I'm not sure yet exactly when I'm going to be going back to the weekly videos, but I will keep doing the weekly live sessions just like this one. So, all y'all, thank you for sticking with me. Thanks for hanging out and spending some time with me this afternoon. Y'all have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And get outside and make some chips. Y'all have a good one. Take care.